Hello and welcome to this public information session about the proposed Cassowary Credits Standard and Rainforest Replanting Methodology for the Cassowary Credit Scheme in the Wet Tropics. May I first begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country across Australia, in particular acknowledging their care and connection of land, sea and community, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Marie Adsett. I'm the CEO here at Eco Markets Australia, and it is my great pleasure to introduce this topic and step you through the agenda. Our Secretariat, Hannah Tilakamarat, is going to go through items 1 and 2 there on the agenda, providing you with an overview of our role as the independent administrator of the markets that we operate and explain to you the comprehensive process that is conducted in order to evaluate a standard and methodology. And this is a really critical part of the process that we undertake. It's designed to really ensure there's scientific rigour and validity so that all participants in the markets that we operate, whether it be as somebody undertaking a project to generate credits or as an investor wanting to buy those credits to claim the environmental outcome, that everyone can have utmost confidence that the environmental outcomes are real, that they have been achieved, that they've been accurately measured, and that they're independently verified. Hannah is then going to step through hand over, I should say, to Bronwyn Robertson. Bronwyn is the project leader at Terrain NRM, who is the developer of the standard and methodology. So who better to talk to you about, or present, I should say, present what it's all about and how it's all going to work. And that's items 3 and 4 there of the agenda. Hannah will then step back in and talk you through the public consultation process itself and provide some information about how you might be able to get involved and participate if that's of interest to you. So on that, I'll now hand over to Hannah.
Thanks, Marie. And thanks to everyone for your interest in this new program, Cassowary Credits, which, as Marie mentioned, is currently open for public consultation. All of the scheme documents can be found on our website, and we are seeking feedback on the Cassowary Credits Standard and the Rainforest Replanting Methodology. But first, a bit of background on Eco Markets. Eco Markets Australia was established in 2020 as a not-for-profit registered charity. We manage and administer voluntary environmental markets and facilitate investment in nature. Our inaugural environmental market has been reef credits, which to date has resulted in preventing over 50,000 kilograms of dissolved inorganic nitrogen from entering the Great Barrier Reef. This equates to over 50,000 reef credits. Cassowary Credits is the first biodiversity market that we are evaluating and the first step in our expansion to administer a range of different environmental markets nationally. Under each program that we administer is a standard and methodologies. As I have mentioned, we are seeking feedback on both the standard and the methodology. The standard sets forth the rules and requirements of the program and details the process for project development. The methodologies sit alongside the standard and they detail the activities and requirements for achieving environmental outcomes. Our review process is detailed on this slide, and it includes an internal review by our Technical Advisory Committee, followed by the 30-day public consultation process, which we are now in. After this, we will undertake a peer review with at least 2 peer reviewers. Once this has been completed, we collate all the feedback and provide the author of the standard and method time to undertake any required amendments. Once this has all been finalised, and if it is satisfactory, the TAC will recommend the standard and the method to the board for endorsement. Once they have been approved, we will publish them on our website. You can read a more detailed overview of our processes in the methodology application and review procedure, which can be found on Eco Markets Australia website.
Thanks, Hannah. I'll provide some background and context on the Wet Tropics region where Cassowary Credits was developed and some of the rationale which led to the development of the scheme. This will only be a brief overview, so the full scheme documents should be referred to for further information. The Wet Tropics region is in the far northeast of Australia. The region has globally significant biodiversity values, including 2 interconnected World Heritage Areas. Rainforest Aboriginal people have a long and continuous connection to the rainforest ecosystems of the region, having been stewards of this landscape for thousands of years. Even though substantial areas of Wet Tropics forests are formally protected, Rainforest biodiversity has already declined and will continue to decline unless rapid, large-scale action is taken to restore, reconnect and protect forests and enable adaptation to ongoing climate change. Although there's been enormous effort over several decades, relatively small areas of degraded rainforest country have been restored. The lack of large-scale and enduring funding has been a key barrier to expanding this work. Regional communities of the wet tropics, including rainforest Aboriginal people, hold significant ecological knowledge and expertise in the management and conservation of the region's natural environments. They're engaged, skilled, knowledgeable, and invested in achieving good social and environmental outcomes for the region. Rainforest Aboriginal people have also have the right and expressed aspiration to lead, manage and participate in initiatives to improve the health of their traditional country. In 2019, Terrain undertook a feasibility study into the potential of developing a new biodiversity credit scheme to help address these issues and meet the needs of the region. Following from the feasibility study, a technical working group was formed, community engagement started and has continued throughout the process. The monitoring protocol for the scheme has been field tested at existing revegetation sites in the region. The standard and first methodology have been drafted, and we're now establishing independent administration and governance of the scheme with Eco Markets Australia, and they will manage this public consultation and peer review process. Planning is underway to start beta phase projects, and Terrain intends to maintain close involvement during these early years to maintain the engagement and connection with the regional communities and support understanding and implementation of the scheme. So in summary, the Cassowary Credit Scheme provides the framework for a high-integrity biodiversity credit market. It's a regionally specific but globally significant program, and it's intended to deliver large-scale benefits for rainforest biodiversity and regional communities, including rainforest Aboriginal people. Designed by Terrain NRM, who is an independent not-for-profit organisation and part of the National Network of Natural Resource Management Organisations. So here's a brief summary of some of the scheme's key features. So the scheme will deliver tangible, real results. Social benefits are an integral component of the scheme, and requirements for this have been included in the scheme's design. The scheme will be independently administered and governed and has a strong basis in science and evidence. I thought it worth showing here the underlying principles of the scheme. These principles underpin the design of the scheme and provide the foundation for its implementation. The principles are described in more detail in the guide. In designing the core features of the scheme, there's been a focus on achieving a balance to ensure the highest level of integrity standards are achieved without imposing such an onerous burden on proponents that it presents an unacceptable barrier to participation. Permanence requirements are described in the scheme. Within the replanting methodology, the permanence period is a minimum of 25 years. A risk of reversal procedure also sits within the scheme to provide security of credited project outcomes, but also to protect proponents from bearing the entire risk of reversals from unavoidable events, such as a severe cyclone. The approach to verification and additionality are fit for purpose and again aim to achieve the balance between scheme security and integrity and practicality and feasibility. The last 2 points are really critical components of Cassowary credits, and they've been mentioned throughout this presentation, as it's important to note that the scheme has been specifically designed to deliver benefits not just for biodiversity, but also social and cultural benefits for regional communities, including rainforest Aboriginal people. There are clear descriptions of the approach to this within the guide. So moving on to the methodology. The first methodology is a rainforest replanting methodology. It's always been intended that other methodologies would be developed at a later stage, for example, for protection of existing vegetation or activities to improve the condition of regrowth vegetation. To summarise, the methodology describes the process to monitor, report and verify project outcomes and the accounting process to quantify outcomes. It does not specify on-ground replanting techniques, but it does specify minimum outcomes for vegetation condition that must be achieved by projects. A Cassowary credit represents a quantified benefit to rainforest biodiversity that supports regional communities in the wet tropics. Using the replanting methodology, indicators of vegetation condition are measured to quantify the benefit from a project. Indicators to be measured in the replanting methodology have been selected for their relationship to forest regeneration processes and their likelihood to show substantial change within the 25-year timescale of projects. I'd refer you to the methodology explanatory statement, which includes scientific and technical information to explain the selection of indicators to measure vegetation condition. I also thought it worthwhile to provide a summary of project accounting here. At the start, condition score is calculated from either field measurement of vegetation indicators or using a model of expected condition. Again, see the methodology and explanatory statement for more detail on this. Creditable condition is then determined by subtracting the counterfactual from two scenarios which have been quantified in the methodology. The first scenario considers spontaneous regrowth of native species that might have happened in the absence of the project, and the second is any proportion of condition that could have been achieved through participation in another environmental market, such as using the environmental planting methodology in the Australian Carbon Credit Unit scheme. The intent is that this process would potentially then allow stacking with a carbon project. Change in condition is determined by subtracting the creditable condition score at the previous monitoring event from the creditable condition score at the current monitoring event. Condition improvement units are calculated by multiplying the change in condition by the size of the project management unit. A conversion factor is then applied to convert condition improvement units to credits, and this allows for a standardisation of credit prices across potential future methodologies. Any deductions for risk of reversal buffer or temporary withholding credits are then applied. This has been a brief summary of the Cassowary Credit Scheme and the Rainforest Replanting Methodology, but the full scheme documents should be referred to for further details. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bronwyn. To close things out, I'll just go over the details of the public consultation once more. As we've mentioned, it will run for 30 days and it's going to close at 5 o'clock on the 30th of October. We're inviting all stakeholders to go to the public consultation page on our website to have your say. This is where you can download the Cassowary Credit Standard and the replanting methodology. So that website is on our screen right now. It's eco-markets.org.au/consultation. Please also take the opportunity to download the feedback template for each of those things. You can then, once complete, email them to the address on the screen, which is secretariat@eco-markets.org.au. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. We look forward to receiving all feedback on Cassowary credits.